Good evening, everybody. We've got here a 1v1 between two top-level Norwegian players. So we do have in the blue playing as the Vikings, MbL, and then his enemy is going to be in the yellow playing as the Malians, TheViper. These two players have played against each other multiple times. They've played as a team multiple times, won many tournaments, and of course are two of the most well-known Age of Empires players, possibly of all time. So let's get right into it. So we do have in the yellow Viper, obviously one of the greats of all time when it comes to Age of Empires, and he is going to be playing in a pretty open map, all things considered. As you can see, fairly open on the front. He's got forward berries. He does have a nice back main gold and easy wall into the town center if he does go for that gold, but that berry is going to be a little bit harder to wall off, might just wall into it. His enemy, of course, being MbL as the Vikings. Very nice little corner on the side here, but very open on the other side. So does not have the back gold, but his berries are a little bit easier to protect. But I would personally prefer the Viper's position with that back gold. It's very easy to protect that into the town center. Those forward berries really not too bad, all things considered. I'm just going to speed up a little bit as we get to a little bit more action. The players now moving forward. MbL known as a lamer, but Viper very capable of doing any of that sort of stuff as well. So of course he does see the stone. He does know that the enemy is forward here. So he knows the enemy's somewhere in this vicinity, but sadly guesses the wrong direction. So he wants to avoid hitting that town center. He might even see these singular trees and think that the town center is here. But of course, we know the town center is way back here. With the berries, he is going to run, see the enemy very easily, and MbL still hasn't scouted out the enemy. He's going forward now to see what sort of stuff he's dealing with. And so I'm going to just slow it down a little bit as we do have a Dark Age rush. So this militia is already going forward, and that gets spotted by the scout. So the scout loses HP, which is a big deal this early on because now Viper's scout can engage easily with MbL's and not have to worry about any sort of loss. See if this Jaguar can get any sort of attack, and no, the militia, smartly enough, run away. So MbL in response is already walling up. These walls will be completed very shortly. He's got a lot of villagers doing the walling right now. That is 5 villagers right now not collecting resources, and in the Dark Age that's a big deal. Now these walls are at least weak but up, and we'll see if the Viper chooses to just dive right under and loop around. But with that house going up, it will be a little bit harder. He will be in range of the town center. So, oof, big shot hits the Viper scout. So now MbL actually has the HP advantage when it comes to scouts. And with those shots and the scout attack on these militia are being a lot weaker than we initially would have hoped. Now, when we take a look at the total count of units, it's 21 villagers for each. We do have those militia, of course, adding to the overall population of the Viper, but nothing too crazy as of yet. Of course, playing as the Malians, these militia are pretty strong. Do have stronger infantry as the Malians than the Vikings do. The Vikings being known as a bit more of a booming archer civilization until they get to berserks, of course. But both the players now up to the next age. Both players collecting up the necessities, and the Viper choosing to attack and try to really waste time of the enemy while Viper's wide open at home. He knows that if he plays aggressive, he doesn't need to wall up at home. He knows the enemy's walled up, and this is a barracks now coming up for MbL. And we do have the house being attacked. It's going to be a long time, of course, until that house can fall, going down by just 11 hits every few seconds. So will be a while, but now as they reach the next age, we'll really start to see what each of these players has in their back pocket. Viper is slightly faster up to the next age, but the thing that MbL has in his back pocket is he gets the free economic upgrades, which is a huge deal. Having that wheelbarrow upgrade right off the bat is a big step up for the Vikings, and of course can really be the difference maker, as you don't need to waste time getting that upgrade. So the Viper does clear out MbL's scout. That's good micro from him, and nothing really going down on this side. We do see a stable coming up in response for the Viking player, so of course going to see some scouts coming out, but we do see archers from the Malian player. So once these archers get up to a good size mass, it will be very easy for them to engage, but with the scout's speed and the openness of the Viper's economy, it's going to be tough for him to really fend off the scout attack that will be incoming. This villager's already going to be at risk. As you can see, MbL with just a slight villager lead so far, and that is pretty standard. He was a bit slower up to the next age, and he will just get a bigger and bigger advantage as it continues on. So the Viper does lose his initial scout, but now he knows that the enemy is going for scouts himself. So MbL will be running this way. Will he be able to pick off this villager? He might actually be able to if that scout were to go that way, but instead, he knows the enemy knows he's there. He's going to just take out these militia. They've been a bit of a hassle for him, so going to try to take them out while he can. The scouts will have no problem, but the point of the militia at this point will be to just cause as much damage as possible. So we do see a bit of a weakened scout as the third one is coming forward. Of course, when you're playing as the Vikings, the problem becomes bad cavalry as the game progresses. So they do not have strong scout line, and interesting wall decision here, but just what needs to get these walls down as soon as possible. The walls will not go down in time, and the spearman is going to sit to protect this villager. One spearman is enough to scare away this two scouts, but the scouts can just run circles around that spearman. So the spearman not being as effective as Viper would like, I'm sure. And the Viper just too slow for the initial wall off, but his gold miners will be protected. These wood miners will be, or these wood choppers will be protected, but the villagers, it's just messy right now. Without those walls and with the speed of those scouts, it's so tough to engage with spearmen. But if he gets these wall offs down, which he is the Viper, he is capable of getting walls down at any point in time. And look at this scout just running right underneath the town center. That scout, of course, taking a big risk, but able to run away pretty easily. The wall off almost completed by the Viper, and it should actually be completed. There you go. Wall off is finished, and so these four scouts are now trapped inside. The only way out is this western side here, and the Viper has some military on this side as MbL is building his own archery range, will want to respond with some sort of skirmisher rush, and these scouts will be forced to leave now. So lots of wasted time for the Viper, lots of economy downtime, and lots of running back and forth into that town center. So overall, good engagement from MbL. Really, that's the key this early in the game, is you want to be wasting the time of the enemy. You want to make sure that what you're doing is causing the economy of the enemy to just falter and slow down. So these scouts, MbL knows they're not going to win him the game at this point in time, but they will. What they will do is they will give him that edge so that later on, when he's got these massive skirmishers and scouts combined, he can take out these archers and he can really engage against the Viper. So great micro with these archers, taking out 3 scouts. Of course, there was that spearman with those archers, so I'm assuming that spearman did get some free shots, but 3 archers with fletching, able to engage against these weak scouts, and now we've got a good mass. So they will have the range advantage against the skirmishers, so that is a big bonus that they do get, because there was no fletching, but now fletching's in, so that range bonus disappears right away. But the archers should be able to engage a lot better against these scouts as we continue. So MbL is just that much faster to the next age, and the skirmishers are down. We do have a bit of an advantage when it comes to military for the Viper. He's got 12 versus the 8 of MbL, and the 8 of MbL are very weak. I mean, even engaging against one archer is a little bit risky, but skirmishers just so much stronger than archers, and just this is where we see the expertise of both of these players. They know each other and they know how good the other is at micro. Very few shots landing, and that's really what they're good at. That's what they're going to focus on. And with all of these skirmishers, the response is of course going to be cavalry. So the Viper's dropping a stable of his own as MbL initiates Bodkin. He's getting elite skirmisher right off the bat, and he's getting those eco upgrades that are really going to help out long term. Might even see a second town center, but we will see. Of course, MbL at this point in time might not want too much being spent on his economy. He wants to get that advantage for military where he can. He does see this stable, and so he is dropping a monastery forward. So a forward monastery, very difficult to engage against, and especially if your response is knights. So these knights will not be as effective, and this monastery is out of the line of sight. So we do have crossbows who can pick off those monks, and this is where it becomes a counter of a counter of a counter. So, of course, archers were made by the Viper. In response, we get skirmishers. In response to those skirmishers, we get knights from the Viper. In response to those knights, we get monks from MbL. So this is the beauty of this high-level play. And the Viper deciding to go for a big boom. So that's 3 town centers immediately down, and good timing for those town centers as he gets a couple shots off, gets a free kill on a scout, and he's got his crossbows, he's got his knights, and he's got this army trapped. This army, even just the small army of the Viper, would be able to engage, but the Viper chooses not to. He sees now that there's this monk going forward, and he knows that what he needs is to keep the military that he has and boom up as much as possible. A bit sloppy here. These villagers have been in this town center and idle for quite a while, so even with the advantage that he did have, he's got 9 villagers. That's 10 villagers with this one standing idle. Not working at all. He loses these crossbows on the front, but he's moving forward with knights of his own. MbL is going to be dropping his second town center as these crossbows are getting picked off by the skirmishers, and a bit of an engagement here, but nothing too bad that can be done. So knights do move forward. They will be able to pick off these skirmishers if they decide to, but the Viper is going to dive in, attack them, and in the meantime he's microing. They're both microing here, they're over here, and they're working on their economies at the same time. These players are so fast, it makes sense why you can forget. So of course, the Viper must have hit that idle villager hotkey, and notice his town center has been holding villagers for quite some time. MbL still has the villager lead, so that lead is going to shrink quite substantially as there are 3 town centers versus only 2, and the Viper is going to try to pick off these monks, get the monks when he can, because the monks are really the only thing that MbL has in response to the knights. If you're MbL, you don't want to be building knights long term as the Vikings, because the Vikings have very weak knights in the long run. This monk does run out. He's going to get picked off right off the bat, so that's a free monk for the Viper. That's a good shot, but a little bit sloppy from MbL as there are 2 more monks. Could convert these 2 knights quite easily. And the crossbows are out. They will take out these 2 scouts, and they're going to run away because they can't engage against these skirmishers that easily. But there are 4 knights forward. There are 8 crossbows forward. They could pick off some villagers here or there, but with this town center, it's going to be hard to engage. And oof, bit of a mistake. That is 3, 4 free crossbows and weaken the other crossbows as well. So the skirmishers are out, but just 2 knights is so strong against these skirmishers. And ooh, bit sloppy again from MbL. Losing from the Mangonel. This is a game of counters right now. Counter after counter after counter. As we see knights from Viper running right underneath the town centers, engaging against the villagers. There's no more villagers that can go in here, but the knights go down. And there is a Mangonel here in response to the skirmishers. So we've had so many counters in this game constantly. And we now see the 3rd town center go up for MbL and not much of a villager advantage for him. All things considered, it is fully tied right now despite MbL having less town centers throughout the castle age. And so these crossbows will go down. These crossbows will be chased down by skirmishers as well. And we see just small groups running around the map. But if this small group of 7 and 3, that's 10 crossbows that could engage and could cause some damage. As we see a battering ram forward, and really there needs to be a response to protect this battering ram, because there is a knight as well as a spearman, so you need to be protecting this battering ram, and that's exactly what the Viper will do. But it'll be a bit too late, as the villager and the knight will go down eventually, but they were able to attack that battering ram. We now see the 4th town center for MbL, so this is where MbL is going to try to push his advantage. One thing to note, at the time of recording, MbL was ranked #1 in the world, Viper not. So of course, while Viper does have that deeper background and the experience of years, MbL has consistently been a top 10 player for at least 10 years now. And this one villager has continued to build that forward. It's a good job for MbL to keep that villager alive. Just building houses, keeping that monastery, made sure that he was attacking the battering ram. But now we have a Mangonel. Let's see if we can get a good shot from the Viper. But MbL does spot the Mangonel. He does know that it's a possibility. And right now, the Viper is fully surrounded by crossbows and skirmishers. He needs a response, and he is switching into elite skirmishers. He's got light cavalry of his own. The light cavalry will do well against the skirmishers, and they will do well against the monks, of course, unable to get converted quite as easily. But there are 4 monks in that monastery. And this Mangonel just needs 1 shot, but so many villagers being picked off on this wood line. Really a good response from MbL. As the Mangonel gets a shot off, but not quite enough to make a kill. Does weaken the crossbows. This will be enough for these crossbows to fall down, but there are crossbows right in the economy. MbL doesn't even care anymore, as the knights need to respond. This crossbowman does fall down. The knights will clean up that group. And 37 military right now for MbL as he is dropping a castle. If we get some berserks out, they will be able to take out the knights quite easily and really engage strongly. As MbL is expanding his economy, he has more military right now, and these monks need to be picked off. They will get a few conversions, but Viper smartly deletes his knights. He knows they would have been converted anyway, so he gets those monks. Trading 4 knights for 4 monks without those conversions. That is a good move for the Viper. And now the Viper doesn't quite see this castle, but he'll see it in a couple seconds when it shoots down his knights. So a castle is up for MbL, and the Viper has no response to berserks with his knights. So 2 castles will be up for MbL. 4 town centers will be up for MbL. What is the Viper's response now? That is the big question. This has been such a messy game. And finally, the villager goes down that's been building those forward buildings this entire time. All of these houses, you know, doing a great job with the population, but now taken out, and the light cavalry and knights having to retreat. We do see some berserks already in the castle, so we will see that response, as the Viper has really got no main form of attack. Husbandry now coming in, and so these knights will be faster and stronger for the Viper, but I don't think he can respond to the Imperial Age from MbL. Once some trebuchets come out and start attacking the front, there's nothing that the Viper can do to engage against the larger army of MbL. So light cavalry, of course, a great addition when dealing with these skirmishers. They can just soak up so much damage from skirmishers and really take them out so quickly. Skirmishers so weak against melee attacks. So a good engagement there, as the Viper has now clicked up to the Imperial Age as well. But these berserks are going to be very difficult for him to engage against, as the upgrades are coming in now. Already getting forging to engage against the light cavalry, and a castle now coming forward for the Viper. He does have a group coming forward, so he will get that castle up. He wants to build trebuchets of his own, but this is a big army of berserks that I don't think MbL wants to reveal as of yet. We're getting defense upgrades for the berserks, and there they are, just completely destroying the light cavalry. What is Viper going to counter these with? And that is the real question. Handcart now coming in for the Viper, but that's already been in for MbL this whole time. Chieftains now up for MbL. He has the resources to continue to produce, and he is going to try to engage as well as possible. As the Viper, he is also getting the attack upgrade now, and he's getting Squire, so he wants to have that infantry switch. What will we see? What type of infantry will we see from the Viper? And it might even be a unique unit. There we go, the Gebetto coming out already, and the Imperial Age will be hit right as this castle comes up on the front of the Viper's base. Of course, the Viper doesn't see this castle. It is just out of reach, but he will soon see that castle if a trebuchet comes out. So Gebetto is very strong against infantry, able to do quite a bit of damage and get that range as well, as a monastery comes up for the Viper. And castles are on both sides for both players, but MbL already has trebuchets out. No real response yet for the Viper. When it comes to trebuchets, there's nothing he can do at this point in time, but he will now see that's a trebuchet and that's a castle right next door to it. So the Viper will know that this castle is just going to fall, and he's building another castle behind, getting that protection. These Gebettos going to do some good damage against these berserks. Of course, able to take them out very quickly, but needs to take out the skirmishers first, because the skirmishers will range them and will be able to hit them from afar. But these berserks, so slow in comparison. Berserks are fairly fast infantry, but the Gebetto's just so quick, able to hit and run, and the berserks falling like nothing is even happening. So this entire army will fall. We'll lose maybe one or two of the Gebettos depending on the micro, and yes, the Viper deciding to just engage against the enemy. But there are 4 trebuchets now forward for MbL, and another castle being built forward. So Gebettos need castles to be made, and these 4 trebuchets will take out this other castle so quickly. It's not even funny. The Gebettos will try to engage. This light cavalry try to run in, but with these berserks, very difficult to get close to the trebuchets. 1 trebuchet might go down here. 1 trebuchet down, but 3 still remain standing. So the Gebettos able to do damage. Bombard cannons now out, but they will fall to the berserks if the berserks can get in close. So all but 1 of the trebuchets are down. The Gebettos take out that last trebuchet, and now the Viper has some breathing space. Can the Gebettos be enough to really engage against this strong Viking economy with these strong Viking units? And of course, bombard cannons, such a good response to the trebuchets. If you can't get in close, hit them from far. And bombard cannons won't need the castles to produce them, so the unique units can continue to be produced for the Viper. He really needs more of these to be built so that he can engage against the infantry of the Vikings. So berserks are forward. There's still skirmishers on the field that can cause some damage, but these berserks are in. The wall off was just a bit too late. This bombard cannon will fall if the berserks aren't taken out, and the berserk does get that last shot off, as the berserks so strong against buildings, can destroy them so quickly. And light cavalry here picking off the skirmishers. This army of berserks will fall to the Gebettos, but now the light cavalry will fall to the berserks on this side. All of these quickly going down. And another 3 trebuchets queued up and ready to go as bombard cannons are attacking the castle now of the enemy. Bombard cannons strong also against skirmishers, of course. And good move here, light cavalry distracting these berserks to make sure that they aren't doing too much damage. And the bombard cannons need to be engaging against trebuchets whenever possible. But the trebuchets choosing to attack this castle instead. MbL knows that the Viper has his army on this side of his base, so he attacks the other side right off the bat. 1 mangonel won't be enough to do too much damage. I'd like to see the mangonel attack these skirmishers. He might have been able to take some out, but now another castle being dropped in the back. The army of the Viper trying to run in time, but not able to engage. This castle will go down to the trebuchets as quick walls protect the bombard cannons. That's a good quick wall right there. And light cavalry, you know, if you're the Viper, you're okay dropping light cavalry all day long. It's just food cost versus these berserks, which cost gold as well. And right now, not sure if that was a misclick there from the Viper, clicking all his villagers too. Oof, might be a bit messy there to get the villagers back on track. So, bit of sloppiness, but that is okay. This is the big engagement. The berserks will be cleared out, but will it be enough? That is the question. The skirmishers able to engage from behind, and that might be it for the Viper, as his main force is down to the skirmishers. They are able to take out the rest of MbL's forward, but now the main force of strength for the Viper is falling, as there are 4 more trebuchets attacking this castle. Will the castle stand? It is very unlikely. The light cavalry can't get in close. 3 trebuchets left, and they are engaging very confidently against this castle. So the castle falls. This entire right side of the Viper's base just so weak without this castle to protect it. The berserks are in. They are going to, this castle's barely staying alive right now, but it will fall once these villagers start to fall. And so the berserks able to take them out. This might be GG for the Viper. There's not much he can do in response to trebuchets attacking his university. He has gold, he has wood, but he doesn't have the food income with the farms that he currently has. Both players sitting at a confident economic level, and both players all right economically, but that was just too much for the Viper to engage against. So overall, fantastic play from MbL and great use of counters. We saw so many counters there, and that's what we like to see from this high level play.